Come to the show. We about to chop it up. Come to the show. We got some things we can talk about. Come to the show. We about to chop it up. Come to the show. We got some things we can talk about. Chop it up. Chop it. Chop it. Chop it. Chop it up. Chop it. We got some things we can talk about. Chop it up. Chop it. Chop it. Chop it up. Chop it up. Chop it. We got some things we can talk about.
You are now tuned in to the Chop Shop with your host, Pastor Marvin McKenstry Jr. Let's chop it up.
What's up, Chop Shop audience? Thank you for joining us again. As always, we're blessed that God gives us the privilege to be able to bring you real quality content every Thursday at 6 p.m. on the Chop Shop. Y'all listen, our show is fire tonight. You're going to want to let somebody know that they need to come and join us right now. They need to log in so that they can be a part of these powerful and impactful conversations. We got two great guests tonight, but before we get to that, I got to bring on my right hand, my left hand, my main man, Mr. Shaka D Pitts on the ones and twos. Shaq, what's going on? Techniques 1200, because anything else is uncivilized. Look, they are lining up. I'm getting outreach. We got a candidate on tonight. We not even all the way into the swing, but they lining up. Look, they feel like these current elected officials are vulnerable. They got something to say, man, and they ain't waiting to say it. You talking about crime. Another 15-year-old murdered coming out of school, trying to set up a pension for themselves, acting like the people didn't know what they was doing when they voted for term limits. Shot. Listen, it's on, and everybody want to come on the Chop Shop. We bringing them on, baby.
Accountability, baby. Accountability.
And listen, it's that, and listen, this has become election season. Pretty much the national and local election season has become one of my favorite times because, you know, it's one of those things that I just have an interest in. And I've been blessed to meet some friends that are real strong as political analysts. You know, our sis, Catalina Bird, man, she taught me a lot, but she introduced me to some people, man, that pretty much know what's going on. And so I view it from a different perspective, Shaq. So I'm excited that and people listen, election season begins this year. You're going to see people campaigning, putting it out there. You're going to see voices raising up. You know, I still say if you see anybody campaign signs from last cycle, don't vote for them because they wanted to clean up Baltimore but left it dirty when they ain't get elected.
They probably still up, Mom.
Man, listen, I ain't gonna tell you no lie. I be
gyppies.
riding around Baltimore and I see people signs. I ain't talking about from this state election we just passed. I'm talking about from the last time we was voting for mayor. Still got, we ain't voting for you because you ain't even take your signs. Yeah. You know, they probably got mad. Ain't vote for me. I'm gonna leave the sign up.
Hey, listen, I ain't gonna say no name, but there's a certain people that, you know, on Liberty, if you driving up Liberty Road, you can see it's been there for 20 years. They've been campaigning for 20 years.
Listen, you talking about Liberty Heights. You ain't talking about
Liberty Heights,
Road.
My bad, not Liberty Road, Liberty Heights. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Man, come on, let's get to these church announcements. Y'all listen, these church announcements are brought to you by the Men of the We Are Us movement. Y'all, we always start off with the Stop the Beef hotline. Listen, crime and violence is a problem in our city, and it's mostly in our communities. And the Men of the We Are Us movement have literally stepped up, and created the Stop the Beef hotline. Every time somebody contacts those two numbers that you see, 443-431-3705 or 443-522-7848, without any police involvement, men are going to get involved. And we do everything from paying a debt off to literally helping people if they need to leave the area. Y'all listen, if you know anybody that's beefing, in trouble, or having a problem, I need you to make sure that you hit one of those two numbers so that we can preserve life and walking hand in hand with the Stop the Beef hotline. As always, we got the Baltimore Peace Agreement. Y'all, we did some auditing this year to really look into some of the people who signed off on the Baltimore Peace Agreement. And we have a lot of brothers that signed off on the peace agreement that are still keeping their word, man. I'm excited for the lens that God has given me to be able to see a lot of what's happening in the work. I was in a meeting today and we ain't deep into it. We hearing about a lot of shootings. As I said, we don't want to ignore no family that's been affected, but there's a specific district that I love and do my work in called the Western District, where homicides from this time last year are cutting half 50%. Listen, I ain't ignoring nobody that's struggling, but I'm excited because that's where I'm doing my work at. Amen. So y'all, yeah, put some hearts and some likes up. That change is happening. All right, y'all. The Employ Baltimore show coming on Thursdays at 1 p.m. where we sit down and we really lock in with employers from all over the DMV that have opportunities. Y'all, we had an apprenticeship, CDL apprenticeship up at my Mondawmin location today, and we got swamped. Yo, they'll let nobody tell you that it's not opportunity in the Baltimore region because we are putting more people to work. I had 2 job fairs today, and another job fair went on down our Daily Bread Employment Center, and there were at least 25 to 30 people that was offered employment on the spot. So make sure that you check in with us, because if you're looking for an opportunity, the Mayor's Office of Employment Development is looking for you. All right. Sunday morning worship, come down, hang out with us. We are going to be literally in the place, giving God glory. It's about those things: worship, family, community, healing, and unity, y'all. Listen, I ain't knocking nobody else. No nonsense, no fluff. We just want to get people that need Christ to Christ. God is blessing our ministry. The blessings are coming so strong in our ministry that it's humbling me. It's really humbling me. I ain't thinking that I'm great or we great, but I'm just grateful for what God is doing in Victory House Worship Center. Join us Sunday morning at 10 a.m. We got a community walk Saturday, January the 28th at noon. The We Are Us men are leading the walk from Towanda Recreation Center at 4100 Towanda Avenue. And we're going to be all up and through the Park Heights community. Want to make sure that you come out. These are Saturday walk, which means that the entire family can come. Women and children are welcome to come out on this walk because it's a daytime walk. We start at 12 noon to Towanda Recreation Center. And then on Monday, we're going to be out at night. And this is a men's only walk. January the 30th, we're going to be at the Liberty Recreation Center, 3901 Main Avenue. And I'm certain that we're going to be trickling around to the area where the young man was shot. The 15-year-old young man from Forest Park was shot. We're going to be making our way around into that area to bring love, light, and healing to that community, as well as opportunity. So men, join us at 6 p.m. on Monday, Liberty Recreation Center. We're going to put some boots on the street, and we're going to make sure that we bring love to our people. There's one thing I forgot to send Shaka the flyer to, and I'll get it to him. Maybe we can get it up in between segments. Tomorrow night, the women is called SICK, Sisters in Christ Kneeling. It's going to be prayer empowerment. It's going to be at 1063 West Fayette Street. It's going to be my pastor, the woman of God, Pastor Shelley Burton, and led by our evangelist, Elder Dee. And the women are going to be coming together to pray and to receive some empowerment. I believe it's going to be a move of deliverance. So if you're a sister, believe me, you are going to be well secured. Amen. Anybody know Pastor Marvin? I'm going to be there. Y'all ain't going to see much of me, but me and my good friend, all 45 of them are going to be there. So don't worry about your safety. Come on down to 1063 West Fayette Street tomorrow at 7 p.m. and we will eventually get that flyer up. It's been on my Facebook page, so we want to get you there. All right. Enough said. I am excited about this interview. I'm excited about this brother because he said something to me today. He said, you can ask me anything that you want. And I'm going to ask him because I know him man to man. I know a lot of the work that he does, a lot of the things. First of all, he's connected to our youth. And listen, we are going to have the conversation tonight because he's already put his hat in the ring for the 6th District Council seat, a seat that has one of those elected officials that's been in it a long time, which don't mean they're in it because they're doing a good job. You know, we just got some voting patterns and voting habits that we got to educate ourselves and in some cases change. But he's here with us tonight. I call him the brother, Mr. 21215, Mr. Park Heights, Mr. all of that up there, Northwest District. I'm talking about the one and only, my brother Will J Hanna. Will, thanks for being with us tonight, man.
Good evening, Pastor. Glad to be here.
Man, I'm excited about you being here because, you know, we try to have the conversations that really matter when we here on the Chop Shop. In Baltimore, has some real issues. And before we get into the conversation, I want you to just take a minute, because I know you. We don't assume everybody know you. Tell the people a little bit about who Will Hanna is, and why you running for the 6th District Council seat.
Well, good evening. Good evening to you and your listeners. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm a 37-year resident of Park Heights, and I've seen the good, bad, the ugly. Grew up in West Baltimore all my life. You know, I was one of those kids that came from Murphy Homes to Lexington Terrace to Park Heights. So we've seen it all. And what I can't stand to continue to see is, just the negligence of our communities. I went in the military when I was 17 years old, served in combat, went to Desert Storm, did a lot of stuff. I came back here, and, after I got out of the military, I got shot while I was in the military. I got out, and I went to work for the Department of Justice for another 10 years. So I've spent 21 years in federal service. And then I came back home in 2008, and I saw that the community that I grew up in and that I loved and that I had so much affinity for was in the same condition or worse than it was when I left. And so I immediately got involved. I became the president of my community association, which at the time was the Park Circle Improvement Association. It's still around. And then I was elected by 29 community organizations to become the president of what was then the Ricestown Park Heights Southern team, which is now the new Park Heights CDC.
Awesome. And man, I want to tell you, it's incredible, because I don't know if I've ever posted a guest and had people actually reach out to me the way people reached out to me. And I'm not talking about reaching out with the general excitement that some people had for our program. There were people that reached out to me that asked me if I knew you, how well I knew you, and did I know this and that. And you said I could ask you anything. So I want to go ahead and get right to this conversation. I think back in 2014, you ran for state senate. And During that time, there was the revealing of what then was an apparent theft case that was open in the state of Texas. And I got your vibe when you told me that I could ask you anything, because sometimes you got to go in and you got to put things out there to kind of silence people who think that there are things that are being hidden or you ain't here for the conversation. So talk to us a little bit about that situation.
Let me
so
tell you,
people can have some real clarity.
I'm glad you asked me that so we can dispel that right now. When I ran for office in 2014, I ran for state senate in the 41st district. And 5 days before the election, there was an attempted ploy to derail my campaign. I was running against Lisa Gladden at the time. So what was said was that it was theft of a vehicle in Texas. And I said, really? And it was from 2008. It wasn't something that just happened. This was in 2008. And I said, I stole a vehicle. What happened was I bought the vehicle. The vehicle wasn't in good condition. We paid for it. It was in my company's name. So it wasn't even in my name. It was in my company's name. We paid the guy for the vehicle. We left with the vehicle. The vehicle was gone I think in 2009. This guy attempted to, and he, at the time that I met him, he was a lawyer, right? The guy I bought the car from. In 2014, he was now the prosecutor for Guadalupe County. And so what he did was he told me, and he said, and then we kept all the records. He said that he was going to go to my political opponents if I didn't bring him X amount of dollars to some person in DC. Said that he would go to my political opponents and go to the media, and basically said that I stole the vehicle. 5 days before the election, it was published. 5 days before the election. Now we're up 60. We got 60% of the vote right now in a poll that was done 5 days before the election. So 5 days before the election, this comes out that they said I stole a vehicle. I said, really? Now, anybody that knows me knows that I've always had vehicles. I've always had property, all that. And at the time, this was a 1986 Jaguar. Remember now, this was 2014. It was a 1986 Jaguar, right? So we dispelled it What happened as a result of that, after the election, I filed a federal case against them for malicious prosecution. And we sued the state of Texas, Guadalupe County, and the prosecutor for $200 million. Now, did we win $200 million? No. I ain't going to disclose how much we did win. But people can go and look at that and pull the filers in the Western District of Texas, Hanna versus State of Texas. So we dispelled that. They actually had to get new prosecutors. They had to get rid of the judges. They had to get rid of everybody just for this case. That's how serious it was. So when people say they didn't bring that up, I expect them to bring that up. But I want them to understand, we dispelled that a long time ago. The case was actually dismissed and it was thrown out. And then our federal prosecution still went forward.
It's literally online. I looked it up and I read it for myself. And that's why when you say, like I said, that we could talk about anything, I knew what you was cooking. But let's get to the 6th district. Let's look at what we're talking about now. The 6th district is one of those places where we have a long-standing elected official who's been voted over and over and over again. And we know that don't always have to do with a good idea. It can do with bad voting practices. And you are literally stepping out and have thrown your hat in the ring, which some would say is a little early, but not super early for the 6th district. What is it that's motivating you in this particular time, as you've been around Mr. Park Heights, to decide to run for this council seat?
So back in probably about 8 years ago, maybe 2 cycles ago, I had a conversation with the current councilwoman. And I told her, I said, well, as long as you do right by the community and we don't have any problems. And so I said that as long as you're there, I'm not going to run against you as long as you're representing the interests of the people in the community. And so over the last 8 years, and I would dare say the last decade, that's how long she's been in office. She's been in office almost 20 years. By the time the election comes, it'll be 20 years. And if you look at Park Heights over the last 20 years, not a lot has changed. And as a matter of fact, a lot of things have gotten worse. Now, a lot of people say, well, we see all this new development. We see this stuff. What you're seeing are apartments being built in Park Heights. When the intent was, and I was one of those people that was around in 2005 and 2006 to do the Park Heights master plan. We were there. That was before there was a Park Heights Renaissance. That was when we made the recommendation to create Park Heights Renaissance, which was created in 2007. So we were very much in the know of what was going on with the community. And then we had probably 29 community organizations that we work with, not only with the 29 community organizations, but the 82 faith-based organizations in Park Heights, the 636 merchants in Park Heights, the 37 service providers in Park Heights in the community. So we began that work. Over time, our work was then dismissed. And so all the efforts and the work that we had done was kind of left to an organization that had not been as entrenched in the community as we were. Our organization had been around since 1999 and represented the interests of the people in the community. That was what was important to me. So if you look at the timeline that I'm laying out, from 2008 to 2023, we have done this work for these last 15 years. And our organization is not one of those funded organizations. People look at Park Heights and they see a lot of money that comes through that community. We're not one of those organizations that gets that funding, whether it's slots revenue or racetrack impact funds. What got me really interested in it was knowing, and I say this very cautiously, knowing very pointedly where those funds were, what happened with those funds, and then having documentation to support that. So it was always representing the interests of the people in the community, find out where these dollars are going, these millions of dollars are going that's in your community. Right now, we can count $177 million that's missing in Park Heights right now.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that number.
Now, if $177 million came through your district and you didn't question it, then the problem no longer is the people that got the money. The problem is now you. If you didn't inquire about it, you didn't ask about it, and you didn't even wonder, where did we get that number from, and say, well, let me look into it.
So as a West Baltimore guy, particularly a 6th district guy, and somebody that I know is very passionate about youth and youth sports, you do tremendous work with your Baltimore Lightning organization and things of that nature. And I know I have a background in coaching and so many other levels of youth. When you see youth violence, where we're literally looking at, I believe it's 10 shootings and I think 4 murders of people who are teenagers in the city of Baltimore. And this latest one being right in the district that you're running for.
Yeah.
Talk to us about where you are and how you feel. What's Will Hanna as a candidate for this 6th district? What's your response to these things that we're seeing?
It is unconscionable to think that we could have all these people. I mean, we had incidents in Park Heights last year where we had 7 people get shot at one time. We had 5 people get shot at one time. You know, and all mostly young people. And you see it all over the city. It is the most disheartening thing that happens. But not one of those times did our council person show up. Not one. We go out and we talk directly to the families, all because it's important. You know, you can always tell what's important to a person by where they spend their time and their money. And so we put that time into and sowing seeds into young people. You mentioned about our team, the Baltimore Lightning. That program, and I call it a program, was started because we wanted to get kids away and get young men away from being in the street. Not only did we do it through sports, we also did it in development. We set up pre-apprenticeship programs. We did over 75 houses in Park Heights that we renovated, mostly done by the young men in the neighborhood. So, but when I look at what happened, and I'd be remiss if I didn't give my condolences to the families, and I say all of the families that have lost young people to violence, senseless violence. The problem is not that it's not about the young people. This is a systemic problem that has happened that we've been seeing progressively get worse because we haven't done anything about it since the 90s.
When you talk about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just one quick. I want to touch on really quick. This is the result. What we're seeing in the streets of Baltimore right now is the result of our inactivity, our inaction from the 90s when we had the crack epidemic, we had all these things. These are now their children. These were the people that Martin O'Malley locked up, the 150,000 mostly black men that Martin O'Malley locked up during his administration with stop and frisk and all those things. These are their children now who were locked, whose parents were locked up, whose parents were on drugs. And then when you have a city that has 70,000 heroin addicts, and you have about 10 to 15%, 15% of the population in Baltimore that's on drugs. That in itself is another problem. The other problem with that goes with that, is that there's about $7 to $10 million every day on the streets of Baltimore in drug money. So this is what we are combating. We're combating a culture. And you can throw as much money as you want at it. I see all these programs and they do all this funding and we're going to do this. It doesn't work because you're not in touch with the people. And money doesn't fix that.
I want to ask you this because I think a lot of people have way more of a grasp, and our mayor is really a person that's really out front. You see him in the media. You don't really see council people. And a lot of people really don't understand what role council people play in trying to impact some of these bigger and longer standing, more systemic issues. What plan specifically as it pertains to the violence? I know a lot of your work. I know you talked about the development piece and all of that, but specifically concerning crime, as we get ready to come down the stretch, we got about 5 minutes left in your segment. What are your plans? What strategic approach are you taking towards dealing with the violence in specifically the Park Heights community in the 6th district?
I will say this. And we've been and I'm not going to say something that we want to do. I'm going to tell you what we're doing now, and I can tell you what needs to happen. There has to be full throttle engagement with young people and their families. We are beyond the point of saying, well, parents need to be more involved with their children. We're beyond that point. Right now, it's going to take a lot of grown men to go back and get these kids. You know, and I'm glad of the work that you all do, you know, with We Are Us and all. You got to really grow back and get these young men, because they are in a situation that they are totally lost. They have absolutely no idea. When you have 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds carrying guns and getting killed on the streets of Baltimore, there's a systemic problem. So more pointedly, I would say is that once education is the cause of a lot of things, right? Or lack thereof, right? Lack of education, lack of engagement, understanding that when we were younger, we feared some things. There were some things that we just didn't do because we had the fear of something in us. These young people are not afraid because they don't expect to live long. And when you talk to them, they say that they don't expect to live to be 25. And so we have to change that culture. We have to show them that you have some value, that you have some worth. What I do with these young men, these 60 young men that we have, even in football, and that's our small part, right? That's our sector. Even in doing that, we've had 300 young men go through our program over the last few years. 300 that have not been shot. We haven't lost anyone, and they haven't gone to jail. So apparently we're doing something that works. So why can't we replicate that and say it may not be all through sports? Sports is the way through. Not only did we tie sports to it, but we tied college to it. We got guys going to community college right now because a lot of these guys don't get opportunities because they don't have the grade. They don't get into a 4-year college because they don't have the grades. So let's make that not a prerequisite. Make it mandatory. Let's do that in high school. Let's do that in 11th and 12th grade and get some of these young people college credits while they're in high school, and give them, and then that sets them on a path and says you have something to look forward to. You already have 12 college credits before you graduated high school. You have a pre-apprenticeship certification. You have a skill. You can get a job. You can do this. You can do this work. One of the things I would leave with, and I know we're short on time, is that we have a built-in system to how we can actually rebuild Baltimore and actually reclaim our neighborhoods and our young people at the same time. We can do it all at the same time. We can train our young people, we can get them to work, and we can rebuild Baltimore that way from the ground up.
Well, Will, we thank you for being allowing us to be your first stop on the campaign trail, brother. I know that had you not run for office, because we've been talking about getting you on here long before there was an announcement about running for office, because your voice is a critical voice. It's an active, you're an active person in the city of Baltimore. So while we're your first stop on the campaign trail, we know we won't be your last, but we don't want this to be your last time on the Chop Shop. So as we move through the progressions of the upcoming election, man, we want to get you back on and talk to you some more about your plans. And we bid you Godspeed, brother, because you have had your hands on the plow for quite a long time. And I don't talk about things I don't know about, people that I ain't worked beside,
Absolutely.
or know your work. So thank you for joining us tonight, man. We look forward to talking to you again in the future.
I appreciate you. God bless you and keep up the great work.
All right, thank you, good man. All right,
Indeed.
y'all heard it here first. We got the man on. We gonna be talking to Will throughout the process. I'm very clear with people that this isn't a show where we particularly endorse any candidate, because we believe that what needs to happen specifically in Baltimore is voter education. So when you see somebody on here, it's not saying that we trying to tell you who to vote for, but we want you to be informed. We want to give a platform to people that need to speak directly to you so that you can hear those who speak truth to power, the ones that sometimes the mainstream media won't present to you. So we are thankful that Will joined us tonight. All right. I sent the flyer to Shock. I don't know if you got my text or your email, but I do not want the sisterhood and specifically Elder DD chasing me down. So can we get this flyer up real quick in this space of transition? I want to say you are on live with the Chop Shop. We come to you live every Thursday at 6 p.m. Y'all see it and it's sick. Y'all know what it is. We ain't talking about no ailments, y'all, but we talking about it sick. Sisters in Christ kneeling, night of prayer and empowerment. I'm excited for the women of God. I won't be involved. I'm the lead servant, but I won't be involved. I will be there providing security for the women, but I want everybody to come on out. We are going to be at 1063 West Baltimore, 1063 West Fayette Street, down in the Victory House Worship Center. And we want all of the sisters to come out. Again, you will be safe. You will be covered. and the move of God is going to take place. So come and join Elder Didi and the women of God at Victory House Worship Center under the banner and in partnership with NAM, Not Alone Women's Ministry, as we embark on a time of sisterhood. Amen. Friday, January 27th, which is tomorrow at 7 p.m. Doors open at 6:15, and we look to see you in the building. Come with expectation. As I told y'all, my pastor, Pastor Shelley Burton, is going to be there, and it is definitely going to be a move of God. All right, all right, all right. We are not going to belabor the hour. We have one of our favorite guests and one of my favorite guys, one of my big brothers. This brother has a resume in the community that is incredible. Sandtown, Winchester, way he called home. So don't let it fool you. Don't let it fool you. Don't let the smooth taste fool you. From First Mount Olive Church through the great work that he's done as an educator in Baltimore, up into the New Song Project, all that stuff you see down there. He's one of the architects, one of the greatest voices in the development and the growth of Sandtown. And to stand on the murder scene with him and to see how, and we do a lot of work and we out us and all of that. But one day after some work where we were aiding the city in helping to move some of our young people in a healthy manner, during a time of crisis, we got a phone call and we went down to the Sandtown community. I went to respond to one of my brothers who reached out to me, and I got to stand side by side with this man. And I think on that day, I understood better than I ever had before who he is and who he has been in what we call the trenches in the city of Baltimore. I'm talking about the one and only pastor of Grace City Church, my brother, and I think he's the director of operations. I'd be messing the title up of the We Out Us men's movement, Pastor Corey Barnes. Pastor, what's up, man?
What's up, Pastor Marvin? I appreciate being back on the show. It's an honor to be here. As you've spoken, just leading right in, we just left Forest Park to serve our community and help our people, man. So the work never stops, but we will not get weary in well doing, because in due season we're gonna reap if we faint not. So I really believe it, brother.
Man, you know, I'm one of those brothers that, you know, coming from where I came from, who you call friend and brother could mean your life. And I do not take it lightly, the few men that I really call my friend and call my brother, man. And I have such great esteem for you, because like I said, I've seen with my own eyes. And you are one of those brothers have really been able to put together marketplace, ministry, the schoolhouse, the streets, all of it, man. It's a powerful, powerful thing. So I wanted to have this conversation with you. And this conversation is going to be a series, because next month we got the mayor of Park Heights coming on, Bishop Kevin Elliott. Like, I want to talk, because there are a lot of people who see community. And they see pastors in the community. And of course, the We Are Us men's movement has built a massive in the community. Yeah. And people treat me as a pastor who's passionate about community like I got an S on my chest, or because I'm from the streets, that this is, you know, some special power that God has given me. And don't get me wrong, I'm grateful that I have the anointing that's on my life to call and the ability to function in my lane. But there really is a means and a manner to position your ministry to work in community. And when I began to think of who my guest would be to talk about this specific empowering topic, you definitely was one of the ones at the top of the list. So I want to put that out there to you. Is positioning your ministry to do community work a thing?
It's absolutely a thing. I also understand and respect the fact that people start ministry or go into ministry with a call, with a model, and a mission. And I know, Pastor Marvin, you know this. You know, if you started ministry in the 60s, it was a different call. And you had to be out on the street, but it looked a little different. Black people were trying to get equal rights and all of that. So we went through that era in the church, and we understand that. But now we're in a new era where, you know, our people are suffering. Our Black boys are killing Black boys. 90% of the murder rate would go down if Black boys stopped killing Black boys. So The question becomes, how do you set up a ministry knowing that that the murder rate could drop and we be inside of the church? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how. I'm not saying or convicting any other pastor. I don't know how to do that. I can't watch black boys kill black boys and I'm a strong black man and I'm not getting the face of a black boy, because I really believe God has empowered us to be the solution. Everybody else is writing on it. Everybody else is reporting on it, but nobody, and even in my research, my doctoral research, there is not a lot of writing or a lot of work has been done on black men going to get black men off the corner. There's not a lot of work on it, which shows us that it's been a gap for a long time. So should we be in the marketplace? Absolutely. As an African-American pastor, let me just start there. In Baltimore, with black boys killing black boys, I don't know any other place we can be right now. I just don't. I can't. I can't. And this is no conviction on anyone. I can't be anywhere else. But I am going to do my work in the church. But I'm blessed to have a ministry that is in love with a pastor whose hands is on the street. My ministry loved that. They don't want me dealing with my issues and all that stuff when black boys dying. They don't want me bothered with all of those issues. We got ministries, we got counselors, we got people, professional counselors that we refer to for people that they want me in the face of our children and help our children. So I do believe that we got to be in the marketplace, Marvin, and your ministry has to give you permission to be there as well.
I want you to stay there with that, because I receive incredible support. People know in my church who I am. They know that there's no way to keep me out of the streets, but I receive incredible support from my church, which is my local church and congregation, but also those who support me as a man of God when it's time to, reach out for financial support and other things. How critical is it that if your local pastor says, hey, we're going to take this turn if we're not already doing it, and we want to get out here and get involved because there's a real need, that the people who are walking with him, I don't do all that follower stuff, the people who are walking with him in ministry, knuckle up, buckle down, and realize what areas of support that they flow into?
Yeah, I'll just kind of say this. I've been privileged, and a lot of times, and let me just say this, and I want to make sure I'm not giving a wrong overtone. I am very different in how I walked into pastoral ministry. The average age, I'm 14 years in the pastor, and the average age in my church was 34 years old. It was 31 different flags of origin, white, black, Asian, college students. So I had young people that were upset with things in the city, things of justice, things of that. So they wanted a pastor who was in the street. I understand that a lot of our pastors are pastoring ages 50 and older, 60 and over. And so that's a different call. So let me honor and respect that. In the same note, state that this pastor who has hands and feet in the community, have influence and voice in the community, has to be, and everyone who has that passion and ability should be out in the community, because our black boys need us. And if you can get out there, or you can't get out there, send somebody to be out there, because the word reconciliation actually means, and it's a big word, but the word reconciliation actually means to come face to face. If we're going to reconcile the issues in our city, we got to get face to face with the issues. I believe that Genesis 1 passes, where are you, Adam? Where are you, Pastor? Where are you? And that was God's answer to the brokenness. And what was beautiful about that, when he asked, where are you? Adam was hiding, not God. God was right there where he bet in the cool of the day. And so my question is, where are you, Pastor? God met us in our brokenness. We got to meet our young people in their brokenness, because that's where God met us. It's broken. It's weed, it's addiction, it's violence, it's cussing, it's all kinds of stuff. But that's exactly where I see God would have met me. That's where he would meet us. That's where he met us. So I just am passionate about this. So the question, I don't even know if the question is fair to ask me, Pastor Barber.
It's fair. It's a fair question because I literally have the privilege of being housed with a congregation that is kind of in that 50 and over realm. And yet, while their charge isn't to go and walk the streets with me, the first Saturday of every month, they known as the Witnessing Church. They're out there, they're giving away food, they're praying for people. Sir. Everybody kind of has a lane and a role in it. Talk about the difference between the things that we do and because I think some people get hung up in that, Pastor. I really do. I think some people get hung up in that particular work, and they it's not all about that work. Can you talk to us about some of the other things that are happening in and around, some of the other things that us do that is direct engagement, but it ain't dealing with going out in the night and that part of it?
Yeah. So it's so many things that we do. Our voice and our influence is all over it. We try to impact it all over the city, because not just for the violence, but just, it's this idea, this theological concept of presence. Like, the power of presence is so important. And just being a Black male and showing up and being present at a football game, at a basketball game, at just showing up in numbers, the ministry of presence is so important. As a matter of fact, if you ever got into healing prayer, the first part of healing prayer is showing up and listening. Let me say, healing starts with listening. And so sometimes you can start the healing process by showing up and listening to what an individual is saying. So we do that across the board. There are times when we cut up in front of politicians just to show up to listen. What Pastor Marv, you did today, you listened to that brother. We don't have a position, but we listen to that brother, Pastor. And that's what this is. This is what this is about. So it's more about presence.
You're talking about presence. Let me ask you this question, Pastor. Yeah. And I don't want people to feel like there's a push or beat up or anything like that, right? I want to say this though. What would it mean, right? Tomorrow's Friday, Monday is coming. What would it mean if every day for the next week a church in the Forest Park community just showed up at Forest Park High School?
It would, let me just tell you this. It would be huge. I was up there today, in the eyes and the hearts of those young people. I mean, you would think, public school is noisy. And when I was teaching, when I wanted to get quiet, I used to say, if you hear me, clap one time, and I would go lower. If you hear me, clap one time. I was literally in that school. It was just a somber spirit. And then the mother even walked through the office today. What it would mean for the church to show up, to just be present. I wasn't introduced to the mother. What I ended up doing was, it was a lady going to her car, and I could look at her face, and I opened up her door, and I said, "Sis, are you okay?" She said, "I just lost my son." I said, "We're up here for you, stand with your son, with your family, and let me give you my phone number, exchange number." I was just opening up her door, y'all. I didn't know that was the mother. I was avoiding the press and going the opposite way, end up meeting the young man's mother. So listen, opening up a door, just open up a person who's in pain. So it's small things like that we can do that then opens up the door for God work to move. So that's my challenge, but it only happens from showing up.
You on Live with the Chop Shop. We come to you every Thursday at 6 p.m. And y'all, we talking about positioning your ministry to serve community. Destigmatizing is a whole big piece of this, man. And I do want to kind of hang around some of the issues we see in juvenile violence. I had the privilege of being a part of what's called the trauma response for Edmondson High School when they had their mass shooting, and we're gonna start calling this thing what it is, even just because it's in the black community. We not going to not call it what it is. When they had their mass shooting, and literally we talked to every grade level individually, some sharing our testimonies, others sharing with resources. There was therapists there. There's room in the work for people who want to do the work. How important is it to be connected to, or to reach out if need be, to a local elected official, or to a principal? Let me ask you this. How welcoming was the principal to the fact that y'all showed up today? Because I couldn't be with y'all. I had to be somewhere else.
Man, they were so welcoming. Hearts were open. They just appreciated us being there, walking with those children. Man, it was unbelievable. But we were one community, y'all. We were just one family that day today. And this is the thing. We love to use the analogy of family, but my family don't show up at the tragedy times. That's not when we get together. That's not what we do. You know what I mean? We celebrate everybody's birthday. We celebrate. So we got to stop this family thing where we show up at the funeral. Like we've been doing that for too long. Or we show up at the death and we dress up and we look good and no, stop that. We got to show up. These problems in our black community have been there before they die, before people die. So we can show up for each other before then. We can show up at these schools now. It's a problem in Baltimore City Public Schools. Show up now. It don't need to be a school shooting for you to respond. We don't need a response team then. We need you to respond now.
Pastor, I want to ask you a question, because a lot of times what's forgotten in this, and you've been an educator and an administrator, and I haven't been a conventional teacher, but I've stood in the classroom and did more on the training side. But you fall in love with these kids. How important would it be for the faculty to be able to see, and we're going to take it out of the realm, because I don't want nobody to think we're here to beat up on churches, but we're talking about people of faith. We talking about community organizations to show up on a regular basis, because those frontliners, they get it bad. When you're hearing about the problems in Baltimore City Public Schools, it'll be difficult for me, if I'm the one standing in the classroom doing my best, to not take it personal, to not say that you're saying I'm bad. I know some police officers at the height of Baltimore City Police's issues that sat with me and cried because they were not a part of the problem. How important is it that we have that level of engagement, even so our teachers, our administrators, and our principals feel as though they have the support from the community, and like you said, not in a time of crisis.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
but you got to speak from the perspective of being an educator and administrator, not your we out us hat this time. You've been in that position.
Right. Yeah. As an administrator, and as well as just being a teacher on a line staff, you're the first line. Like more about. Listen, we know this. Kids spend more time in school than they do sometimes, most of the time, in their own home by the time they in middle school and high school. So that time you get is so precious, and how we utilize that time and the relationship that we get. God, I used to say this because it's funny because I taught at Forest Park, and I was in the ED program. I taught on the emotionally disturbed program. And I used to describe it this way. I used to say, God bless me with a vase with a crack in it. And if I don't handle it, I will break this whole vase. That's the way I used to look at my ED children. Like it's a crack and it's fragile. And so I got to make sure that I handle this so I don't break it. And that's what it is. So many of our children are not necessarily emotionally disturbed, but it's a crack somewhere that we've got to handle that gingerly. And that's how we need to do it collectively. The teacher needs help to deal with, because you got 12 vases that are cracked and you got to move all of those along. How good you have to be to make sure nothing breaks. Good God Almighty, come on, y'all. We got it. It's got to be collected. Our children have cracks and bruises that are deep. And when we mishandle them, That's the way I saw it. Like God trusted me to handle these precious vases and to make sure that they get back together. So that's what God is doing. That's what I feel we have to be as a community.
So we on live with the Chop Shop. We talking to educator, administrator, man of the community, Pastor Coy Bonds. And in light of the reality that we are looking at 10 shootings of young people that have resulted in, I believe, 4 murders this year.
Yeah.
And you as a father, as an educator, as a man, you're sitting and you're seeing this. But you're not just any father, any man. You're a part of the solutions that are taking place in Baltimore. What would you encourage any man to do concerning what we're currently seeing in our community?
Number one, step up in your own children's lives, like and love on your own children first. Let me just say that, because if we practice on our children well, then it'll begin to. So when we go out and help other people's children, we have our own family as our practice ground. I love other people's children because every time I look in their eyes, I see them as my children. That's the difference between sympathy and empathy. Empathy means I got to put myself in their place. No, I see them as my children. When I walked in that room, I saw my child lying on that ground dying. And so I need us to understand that when we practice well, what I want for my children and what I want for every Black male, and when I engage in the community, that's what we got to go after. And that's what we have to win. And that's how I taught. You know what I mean? The young man that you shared, Marvin, they always tell a story that he would try to sit me out for my homework. But his mother, I said, if I don't get my homework, school got out at 5. It was 9:30 at night. I said, I'm not leaving. We'll stay here all night till I get my homework. And his mother trusted, said, Mr. Bonds, you can stay there. I'm going to bring y'all something to eat. If he don't get that homework done, y'all, I said, I'm not leaving till I get my homework. You know what I mean? And that's what it takes. It's that kind of love. It's that kind of extension that it takes for us to change our community. Y'all, we have to love our children like their own. I tell my child, you ain't leaving out play till you get your homework. Well, I had to do the same thing as a teacher. You're not leaving out of here till I get your home. I said, is it okay for him to stay here all night? Well, I'll stay here all night, but I need him to learn. That's where we have to be. I need you to live. I need these Black men to live. So we're going to be out there every night. We're going to be out there engaging the community. We're going to be getting them jobs because we need them to live. So that's what we're about.
Fox makes sure that we see a camera in front of the mayor every time there's a tragedy in Baltimore. What do you say to people who are sitting around and waiting on either police or the elected officials to be solo in the solutions to what's happening in Baltimore?
Yeah, please don't look at the news and determine what's going on, just what's going on in our city. The narrative is so much bigger than that sound bite in that clip you are seeing on television. The lives of the people are so real, are so loving, it's so needy, it's so caring. The love that comes when you're in the face of someone, the need of someone. And so I'll just say this. I'll say this because I am a pastor. We just got to be Jesus with skin on. I need us to be Jesus with skin on. We got to be right in the face of people, and they got to be able to touch the God and Christ that's in us so that this community can change. The church, we need you. If you know that brokenness needs Jesus and need Christ, then you got to show up. It's not okay to be on the sidelines and you have Christ in you and these children are dying. I need us. I'm begging you. I'm asking you. I'm pleading with you because I believe the church has the answer, but it starts in presence. Jesus showed up in the presence of it. He could have did it from far distance, and some he did, but he was in the face of God's people because it was something transforming and changing by being close to him. And so if Christ lives in you, come on, church, let's get in the community and touch this brokenness so they can really change. So That's all I had, Pastor Marv. Yeah.
Pastor Corey Barnes, that's a lot, man. It's tremendous. I just really wanted to make sure that it's destigmatized. One of our great sisters, Danelle Austin Pendle, one of my favorite people on the planet, is with us tonight. Dr. Nicole, who does not conventionally do the community work the way people see, but her business, which is located in Park Heights, Dr. Nicole Miller, has been offering opportunities to people in the Park Heights community for years, and we had her on with us tonight. And we got the man, the myth, the legend himself, the one and only Dr. Phil Leaf on with us tonight. Man, I'm excited about what's still yet to come, even as we're in this space of grief and trying to be a part of the healing. Pastor Corey Barnes, I thank you, man. You know you're gonna be back because you're one of the regular contributors to the Chop Shop. And it was just great to be able to get you on tonight, especially in the face of what we're seeing from young people and your multiple hats that you've worn as educator, administrator in the school system, and now one of the key elements to one of the greatest solutions that's taking place in Baltimore. Thank you for being with us, man. And we ain't gonna say bye to you. We just gonna see you next time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Again, we want to extend our gratitude to the one and only Will J. Hanna. And again, we bid him Godspeed. We want God's will in every election, and we want people educated. I do want to shout out Dr. Albertha Lung, who's with us tonight. I had the privilege of being in a funeral service with her today. Yep, I was there with you at that funeral. One of the great women of God. I told y'all all the time, I celebrate the women because even as the men have risen up and taken a step forward, it was the women in the city for a long time that held this city together. So I'm grateful tonight. And we listen, y'all. Again, this ain't a place where we endorse an elected officials or anybody. But if in fact, whether you agree or disagree, you need to be praying for Brandon Scott. You need to be praying for Dr. Santelises. You need to be praying for our elected officials. You need to be praying for our police commissioner. Why? We need to be praying for them because their success is the success of our city. I'm not going to get on here and tell you vote for none of them. I'm not going to endorse them or do none of that. This is not an endorsement, but it's telling you as a man of faith and a pastor in God's church that I believe that the people of God will get to praying. There'll be some things that'll be repositioned and everybody got a word of criticism. Everybody has a word of criticism. And I'm not saying that it's not due or just, but prayer, the effectual, fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. I thank you again, Pastor Corey Barnes. Thank you, Dr. Will J. Hanna, for being with us today. As always, I thank my right hand and my left hand, Mr. Shaka Pitts on the ones and twos, always making the magic happen. You are my man, my right hand. I don't even know how this happens without you, bro. I don't want to ever let it happen without you. You're the greatest producer in the game, and you really make my job easy. I do want to thank, last but certainly not least, our listening audience for being with us tonight. I always say if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Of course it does. It just was nobody there, but y'all show up for us and y'all show out. As always, in closing, I need y'all to join us next week. We're going to have my main man, Mr. Ray Kelly, who is going to be giving us an update on what's happening with the local session and what things we need to be focused on, specifically around police reform and other things that are happening in Annapolis. And we're going to have the awesome woman of God with us again, Shavonna Whitehead. Dr. Vaughn was on with us before, and she set the place on fire. So you definitely want to make sure that you're here for that. Again, join us tomorrow night at Victory House Worship Center as we have our sick Sisters in Christ kneeling prayer and empowerment session organized by our great elder Dee Dee Hagins of Victory House Worship Center, the proprietor and founder of Not Alone Women's Ministry, and our very own Pastor Shelley Burton. Y'all, it's going to be a happening, be in the building. The women of God are going to be blessed and edified. Last but not least, trust God. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Be the change that you want to see. If you're in a place, there are a lot of people that have picked up and moved on. But how about staying there so people can see the change that's possible for them? And above and beyond anything else, always remember that you can be more. Thank you for joining us.